Welcome to another 21 Hats Dashboard brought to you by our sponsor, The Great Game of Business. I'm Lauren Feldman, and I'm here with Gene Marks. Welcome, Gene.
Hello, Lauren. Happy post-Thanksgiving as we get into the holiday season.
Yes, great to have you back. Sorry we missed a week, but I hope you had a good break.
Yes, it was fun.
Gene, we usually talk here about the most important stories of the week for business owners, but I don't know, last week seemed like there's a lot going on in the world, but it was kind of quiet in the small business world, I felt. So I thought maybe this week, especially with the year winding down, it would be a good time to do an update on kind of your specialty, a topic that's very important, but many business owners find painful, and that's customer relations management software. Does that work for you?
Customer relationship management software.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
So you are the expert, aren't you?
Yes, it does work for me. And that is, it's an excellent topic to talk about. So yes, let's talk.
All right, let's do it. Did anything change this year? Did we learn anything about CRM?
Did anything change this year? So it's funny it's a funny question. And the reason why is that a lot of it is the same, and yet a lot of it is about to change, if that makes any sense at all. And let me explain what I mean there. For starters, the big players are still the big players, Salesforce and Dynamics, HubSpot, which continues to grow, and HubSpot has really, become a good, a real factor in the CRM world, but Zoho, the ones that we sell, and they are, that doesn't change. The need for a CRM system and the lack of education about it doesn't change. That people using it terribly and needing to use it better, that has not changed. But what is changing, it started this past year with Salesforce's Einstein, offering, and it's gonna blow up over the next year. Is just the impact that AI is going to have on CRM. There are a lot of Salesforce introduced a lot of things that are going to make a big difference in how CRM systems are going to be used in the future. And I see myself getting very much involved in helping our clients understand and lean into some of the AI stuff that is happening now and coming up very soon. That's where I see the big changes coming.
And you think it's going to make a real difference?
Yeah, let's talk about some of these things, right? People say like, well, what do you mean by, AI? Well, I'll give you some examples. I mean, imagine you've got a CRM system. And again, whatever Salesforce is doing, this is not a commercial for Salesforce, but they lead the pack in CRM. So whatever they're doing, all of the other CRM companies are just going to plagiarize and imitate, So eventually, even your CRM system, whatever you're using, is going to do what Salesforce is doing. So let me give you, I can give you some examples.
Let me stop you for 1 second. I really want to hear those examples. But just because you highlighted Salesforce, I think you've suggested in the past that, Salesforce is probably too much CRM for a lot of small businesses.
It is.
Do you still feel that way?
Yeah, I really do. And again, I'm sure somebody from Salesforce would be, vehemently opposed to that idea, but it just is. I mean, Salesforce, even Microsoft Dynamics, SAP, NetSuite, the larger CRMs that you bump into, they fight amongst each other for more like enterprise accounts, meaning 50, 60, 100, 150 users,
Got it. Okay. I just wanted to be clear about that.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many great CRMs, some that we sell, a lot that we don't. And just to give shouts out, Copper CRM is great if you're a Gmail or a Google person. Nimble CRM, John Ferrara, who used to be the Goldmine guy, that was his company. Now he's got Nimble, which is great for Microsoft Office for smaller work groups. Insightly is a very nice CRM, a really good, powerful CRM to use. Sugar CRM. These are all like major players that I love. I don't sell any of those. I can't. I just don't have enough bandwidth, but I love them. They're really good.
I still want to hear those examples, but since you just named a bunch of different brands, let me ask you this. Is there ever a reason to change from one to another? Is that worth doing?
That's another great question. No, there's not. And in fact, if you're using Insightly and you're not happy with Insightly, I guarantee that it's your fault and not Insightly's fault. I can promise you that. And again, I don't even sell Insightly, but I know for a fact that you're just not using it the right way. Now, maybe it probably wasn't set up the right way. Maybe you didn't get the training that you needed. Maybe you don't even know what you're using, it's like you're sitting in in the cockpit of a 747 on the runway, and you're like, this damn thing's not flying. I don't get it. This thing sucks. And you're like, well, nobody showed you how to make it fly, So
should you try unplugging it and plugging it back
right,
in?
and plugging it back in. It's like in 2024 now that we're getting into, these CRM systems, the mainstream ones for small businesses, are so mature at this stage that they integrate with a ton of different products. They're super flexible and customizable. They can be, developed, unique solutions with them. They're good. They're powerful. They're good for small businesses. And if you just are like, not enjoying it. And what's funny, Lauren, is that a lot of times I talk to people, prospects, and they'll be like, oh, I'm using this CRM and, it's terrible. It sucks. What have you got for us? And I usually tell them to go back to the vendor, get a consultant for their existing CRM. Number one, because I don't want them, they've already made the investment in their existing CRM. So cough up a few grand more and actually get trained on how to really use it. And number two is I'm not sure I want to work with somebody like that, because
that's a great point.
They're going to hate me too. I mean, clearly it's somebody that's like, oh, it's the CRM's fault. It's not us, And
when somebody's struggling like that, is it usually 1, 2, or 3 issues?
Yeah, it's always it's always a lack of user issue. That's always it, and shitty data, And then when they say like, oh, but I thought I read in the in-flight magazine that I can punch 2 buttons and my sales would increase 20%. Do they still have in-flight magazines? I don't even know. But it's just people. People, have this overestimation of what CRMs do, and then they don't invest the time and the resources and the money to really, make it work for them. And because of that, they're not happy with it. So, no, the takeaway from all of this right so far, Lauren, is that if you have a CRM system and you're not happy with it, take a look in the mirror, call up your vendor and say, we're not happy. You need to make us happy. And shell out a few bucks to get a consultant. Go on LinkedIn and find somebody that specializes in your CRM system and let them show you all the things that you're not doing or that you're doing wrong in your system. It'll still be way less than changing over to an entire new system. And one other final thing when it comes to that, sometimes it's like a cultural thing. Like, everybody in my sales group hates it. So they want to change to something else. Like, they're not going to be happy unless they change, you know what I mean? Because it's just so, which sucks because you're like, you don't have to do that. Your sales guys are idiots. They need to learn. But then, sometimes people just cave in and that's what they do.
So you mentioned the problem of crummy data. Is AI going to solve that by hoovering up all the data that's out there without much effort from the sales folks?
Makes it worse. When I'm speaking, to a group soon in Arizona, and I do a little piece of my presentation will be on AI. And there's 3 things that everybody has got to know about AI to really get prepared for it. Number one is to beat up your vendor. So we're still going to talk about what some of these CRM things, how it's going to be leveraging AI. So you got to be beating up your vendor to make sure that they're doing this and that you're leveraging it. You need to have an AI policy in your business. That's another topic for another time, Lauren, but it should be a written policy about who and how and what AI is.
To make sure your data is good.
Yeah. But the number one thing is you should be using 2024 to clean up your databases because your data sucks. My data sucks. My database is there's holes all over it. And if you really want to use AI, you're not going to turn to AI and have it automate stuff and do things on shitty data. I mean, you're going to have a disaster, So for 2024, my recommendation is that you go through, you redesign your system such that you have required fields on every screen. Those critical fields should be, nobody can move on unless data is filled out. They should have lookups relating to those required fields. You should be getting alerts when certain key fields are not being updated timely, or they're empty, or they're out of date. You should also have a database administrator. Could be just a regular admin person. It doesn't have to be a tech person, but somebody that owns your database and makes sure that the data in it is complete and accurate. And you should be generating reports from your database all the time, pipeline reports and issues reports and activity and calendar reports, because they not only help you manage your teams, but they also will validate that your data in the system is good so that you can manage your teams. You want to get your data in shape this year so that as these AI things are rolling out, you can leverage them properly. Otherwise, it's going to be, nuts. It'll be terrible for you.
You mentioned the policy thing. I've talked to lots of business owners who've had policies and they've been ignored and it hasn't worked. I talked to a sales consultant last week for a podcast, Lance Tyson, and I asked him about this problem. And he just said flat out, if the sales team is not filling out their CRMs properly and thoroughly, that's insubordination. And what the policy has to be, you got to tell them if they don't do that, they may not get their commission. And I'm just wondering, have you seen people try that? Have you seen if that works?
Yeah. So it's the age-old issue with CRMs is how do you get your salespeople to use it, the right way? In the end, the CRM is your data. It's the company's data. And this is 2024. This isn't 2014. So any CRM, any salesperson worth their salt not only would recognize that CRM systems are of value. This is not like a new thing. But they would also realize that it will help them make sales. So I have different clients that have tried different things. Some of them have gone so far as to fire salespeople, which I think is crazy. I think holding back commissions is a thought, is potential. But you know what I've learned over the years? Lauren, you and I have talked over the years. We've been friendly. And I think you know this about me. I've become a kinder, more gentler person, a more sensitive human being as I've gotten older. You've often said this to me, and so have the people around me. And what I've realized—
Well, you must have been amazing in your 20s.
Yeah, I was a real jerk. But what I have to realized in all seriousness is that if a salesperson is producing, if they're a competent salesperson, you don't want to get the CRM system in their way of them producing for you. Okay. Some salespeople, particularly younger ones, pick it right up and they zoom along with it. Others that are older, sometimes you get salespeople that are great at sales, but they can't even plug in their television set, And
Yep.
I think you have to adapt your training and your support and your oversight based on that demographic. You have 10 salespeople and I know what you're going to have. 3 of them are going to be rocking and rolling with it. 3 of them are going to be okay with it with a little bit of hand holding, and 3 of them are just going to be complete, dopes. And you want to focus on the dopes. You don't have to you can ignore the others. You know what I mean? So that will help people use the system more. And I'm giving them support. I think you and I have talked about this before. I mean, I've had clients that they set up the voicemail boxes for salespeople to call when they're out and about, so they don't have to type stuff into their phones or their CRM systems. And then they have a high school kid type, put it into the database. I've seen that work.
So there is a way to help the dopes.
Yeah, they're out there making calls. And I thought I told you this, maybe it was years ago, but we had a client back in the day. It was Dietz and Watson. Did I tell you this? And they're outside of Philly. And for all of you guys, whether you know Dietz, they sell deli meats, and they literally have salespeople driving around in Chevrolets with cigars and hats with pastrami's in their trunks, visiting delis.
Are the cigars required?
Yeah, I don't know. And then they're selling these deli meats, and these are not exactly your typical CRM users, but they needed to track who they were visiting and, their prospective delis and current delis and all of that. And they set up a system where they had their salespeople call in a voicemail number at the end of the day or during the day saying, okay, I visited J&G Deli and I visited this store and dropped off 2 pastrami's and, 4 things of cheese. And some high school kid would log that into the system at night at $10 an hour. You know what I mean?
And it worked.
And it worked. And the sales guys focused on selling because they were great at it, And then you had the kid keep the database up to speed so that you could, you can get. So you got to adapt. I think you just got to support your salespeople more, because not everybody is going to be a superstar technical person. And then the other thing I've also found was for clients that use it well, what I said earlier, get reports out of the system. Have a really good pipeline report. That's what your pending deals are. Quotes, proposals, bids, whatever. And you manage your team off of that report. Print it out literally every week. I'm not kidding. And manage your team, because right there and then you'll see the gaps. And that way you could beat the shit out of the people that aren't doing their thing. And then, and ultimately your gaps start to go away and people are using the system. That's my other advice.
So I've lost track. Did we get all of your examples of what AI will be able to do?
No.
I interrupted you too often. Go for it.
We haven't even started. How much time do we have? Do we have another hour? Because I'm going to go through. So just a preview. I mean, some of this stuff is rolling out now, but obviously we all know, being in the tech world, you never get version 1.0 of anything, especially if it comes from Microsoft, but even like Salesforce. But here's what's rolling out and will get better and better, okay? Product proposals and recommendations. So AI will run, you will ask it to run on your system and recommend products to sell to customers based on their prior purchase history. And so it will come back to salespeople automatically and say, hey, you should be emailing this guy to buy this accessory because they bought this product. So send him an email. Or if you'd like, we're happy. I'll send him an email on your behalf. AI will do that automatically. And it can do it in a bulk fashion, or it can just do it on a one-off fashion so that a salesperson or a marketing person's in the middle of it and says, yeah, send an email. Or, yeah, send the email. Let me make a couple of, word tweaks here and now send it. Do you know what I mean? But it will literally be alerting you and to the extent of automation that you want. Because remember, in Economics 101, your greatest source of new business is your existing customers, So what more work can you be getting out of them? That's one thing, okay?
That's impressive.
Second thing that AI will be doing will be training, which means that you can set AI to listen to all phone calls that are being done because AI understands voice, and also look at all emails being sent. It can compare it to other salespeople in the company that are successful, or outside salespeople, or other sales systems like Miller Heiman or Sandler or whatever, and literally come back to both the sales rep and the manager and say, based on what this sales rep has been doing over the past month, it would be more effective if they did this, or if they sent emails this more frequently, or when they speak to a customer in this industry, they should be mentioning this product. Is that crazy? But it will do that automatically based on as it learns, because your large language model will be your CRM system, and then it will pull in other data from the outside. And it will learn how your salespeople are operating based on that data and come back with those recommendations, which I think is really amazing stuff.
Is this available anywhere right now?
Yeah, again, Salesforce says their Einstein product makes some of this available. Again, it's early days for it, so you can play around with it. I mean, you're not hurting anybody by doing that. So it will certainly do that. Another thing that AI will do, I'll give you two more. It'll do sentiment. So, you set it to, for certain customers or all customers to start gauging sentiment. So it's looking at email correspondence and phone conversations going back and forth, as well as any manual notes that might be put in by sales reps. And it's looking for certain keywords and certain, cadence in conversations. And it will come back to the salespeople and their managers and say, this customer's kind of pissed off, or compared to other customers in your group, this one seems a little negative, or this one seems really happy. Like this would be a good candidate for a product testimonial. You know what I mean? But it can warn you in advance. And again, if you want, and it really depends on the trust you have in your data, it can automatically be reaching out to customers that have a negative sentiment and saying, hey, we're sensing that you're not completely happy with what's going on. Would you like to set up a call with our sales manager proactively before you lose that customer? Right. So AI will do that. And it's pretty cool. And finally, just recently, ChatGPT, their 3.5 version of GPT is now out and free, and you can start using it with voice. And their enterprise version, their 4.0 version, already has voice enablement, and that will only get better and better. It's like Alexa and Siri. So, rather than typing out and thinking, you talk to your CRM system and you say to it, I'd like to send an email campaign to everybody with blue eyes and green hair who's an Eagles fan that bought. I'm from Philly, as you know, that bought bought this product. And let them know that we're going to have a special sale in December on correlating products. And when you tell it to do that, it sets up, it identifies the prospects for you and says, here's a list. And then it will compose the email for you to review. And then you say to it, I like it. I made some tweaks. Please sends it out. And then you can also say to your AI campaign manager, for anybody that responds in a positive sentiment, meaning that we're interested, forward those emails over to, Dale over there, who will follow up, or send it automatically reply back to them, pushing them to a landing page that's got, a way that they can just buy that automatically. So it's like this powerful sales assistant doing that work for you instead of figuring out how to do it all yourself. And you can just tell it to do it. Is that crazy?
It's amazing. Are salespeople afraid of this or excited about it?
Well, the dumb salespeople will be afraid of it. Okay. The ones that are, shitty, they will be afraid and they think it's going to take their job. If I was a salesperson and I'm a younger guy, I'd be like, hell yeah, let's use this because it will help me close more deals and also reach out to more people. So I'll make more money. So the smart salespeople get it and they will use it to their advantage. And the ones that are afraid of it, well, I guess they'll hopefully, guaranteed income it will become available from the government at that point, because they'll be out of a job.
2 quick questions. One, is this going to have a big impact on pricing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It really should. And it's funny about that you bring up pricing because that doesn't get written about much. And I think that is a huge opportunity in the world of AI because every client I talk to is unsure of their prices. They know what their costs are, and then they come up with margins. Well, my cost is $1, so I guess I'll sell it for $1.30. But it's just a guess. We charge $185 an hour, and we were just having a discussion today. Like, is that a good fee? And I'm like, you know what? I don't even know. Some guy charges $300, but then some guy charges $100. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think AI will advise me more on better pricing. And the more data that an AI, as they get more intelligent with my own data, they can also hopefully, a good AI system can access external data and be like, hey, Gene, you're charging $185 an hour. We're looking around in the industry and you could probably get away with $195 or $200 an hour. So yeah, the answer is I think it will have an impact on pricing in the future.
What about the pricing of the CRM itself?
Oh, maybe that's what you meant originally? That's
maybe not.
Perhaps. That's going to be up to the CRM vendors. Microsoft, I wrote about this in Forbes a couple months ago. Microsoft and Google are both coming out with their products, their AI products for both Office and for Workplace. Google's is called Duet.
We talked about that. You were a little annoyed at the prices they were charging.
Exactly. They're going to charge $30 a month a user, and jury's out whether people are going to pay for it. So I don't think it will impact pricing. I think what it will do, it will help CRM vendors keep their customers happy so that they continue to pay their monthly, fees. That's what I think will happen.
Last quick question. Does every business that needs a CRM have one by now?
I hope not. I think every business should have a CRM, whether it's a mom and pop restaurant all the way up. There's different ways that CRM can be applied depending on what industry you're in. Not everyone has them, and even the ones that have them aren't using them very well. So which is a lot of opportunity for companies like mine.
But are there a lot of established businesses? Obviously, if you're just getting started, it's one thing. 21 Hats does not have a CRM just yet. But if you're an established business, are there established businesses out there that do not yet have a CRM?
First of all, 21 Hats should have a CRM, even though you're a single user. It's fine. You know what I mean? But there are established businesses that have them. They have old systems. They have custom databases, their own in-house things that they wrote that they've used for a number of years. Sometimes they think that they're using Constant Contact or MailChimp and that's their CRM, which it's not. They're just email services. So there are a lot of established businesses that either don't have a CRM or just have a very, very rudimentary one that they're scratching the surface. We used to sell Goldmine software. We still service it. But I have probably 100 clients that use Goldmine. We have about 600 overall in my practice.
Wow.
That are still using Goldmine. And I'm like, guys, what the hell are you doing? You need to move. You're like in the 1980s. You know what I mean? And, they're reluctant to move because they have other things to spend their money on, which I respect. But my job is to persuade them that investing in a cloud-based CRM will make them a lot more money.
This was great, Gene. You obviously know your stuff. Anything you're working on that we should look for this week?
So what am am I going to write about next week, Lauren? Let me look at my book because I'm this coming week as I'm writing. My big piece that I want to write, which I'll be writing for The Guardian this week, is about the biggest issue facing small businesses in 2024. And let me ask you, I said in 2020, last year, I said the biggest issue facing small businesses were going to be interest rates. And I was right. Okay. I mean, pat on the back. It is. What would you say is the biggest issue that small businesses will face in 2024? Because and I'll tell you what I've decided on.
Well, I think I sort of decided a couple of months ago that the biggest issue, the biggest story right now is
the biggest story.
What we've been talking about, AI, whether businesses, dive in or lay back could have a profound impact. So I would go with that.
So that's a great answer. And I was really juggling that because you're right about it. You really are. My feeling is that AI will absolutely be the big story for small businesses, but I think it's going to be a 2025, 2026 story. I think 2024 is going to be a year where a lot of enterprise mid-level companies they're the ones that are going to be getting their arms around it. And then it's going to become ready for prime time for small businesses. So my angle, and there's no right answer to this, my angle in 2024 is it's going to be all about the consumer. Because I truly believe that we had a good year economy-wise. I don't care what anybody of any political persuasion says. 2024 is a good year for the economy. It's 5% growth.
Did you see quarter. That? They revised it up third quarter?
To 5.2%, yeah. And if you dig into the numbers, it's mostly consumer spending and inventory builds for consumers. So it's the consumer that's driving this, and God bless the consumer. But there's some storm clouds ahead, which I'll write about. And I'm concerned if the consumers start pulling back in 2024, that will have a significant impact on my clients and small businesses around the country. And I think for me, all eyes should be on the consumer. That's my take. So we'll see.
Interesting. Gene Marks is a CPA who writes weekly on small business for The Guardian, The Hill, The Philadelphia Inquirer, The Washington Times, The Chicago Daily Herald, Forbes, and Entrepreneur. You can also hear him on ABC Radio's Eye on the World with John Batchelor. Gene hosts 2 small business podcasts with Paychex Corporation and The Hartford. This episode was brought to you by The Great Game of Business, which helps businesses use an open book management system to help build healthier companies. You can learn more at greatgame.com. Gene, this was great. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. It's great speaking with you. We'll talk next week.
Have a great weekend, everybody.